As you guys saw in the last review, I really enjoyed my time with the first Pikmin game. You could even say I gushed about it a little. So I was really excited to get stuck into this one. I'd heard some good things about it and was under some preconceived notion that the Pikmin formula was about to become airtight and that this was going to be the game that would cement my love for the Pikmin franchise. But since starting this game, my opinions have been swayed all over the fucking shop. I kept going back and forth with this one and wasn't exactly sure if I preferred this one to the original or not. But enough waffling, let's get into my complicated feelings about the game, shall we?
The first thing you notice when you boot the game up is how much the presentation value has been boosted. The presentation, at least in terms of graphics, is incredible. Models, lighting, textures all look stunning and are levels above the first game. No more shitty Mario 64 level textures here, we're in Big Dick country now, boys. Even the cutscenes have had a massive boost in quality. They were cool in the original and they got the job done. But in this game, there was very obviously a much bigger budget because the cutscenes are of a much higher quality and there's so much charm and personality in each one. Take this one with Louis, for example. Speaking of Louis, he's one of the new characters introduced in this game. He's Olimar's co-worker who's been tasked with joining him on this new adventure. You see, while Olimar was stuck on Earth, his place of work, Hokutate Fright, amassed a large amount of debt because Louis lost a bunch of golden pick carrots. Luckily for Olimar, a ship scans an item he has in his possession and sees it as some kind of treasure that's worth a nice chunk of change. So now Olimar has a way to pay off the debt. So now Louis and Olimar are tasked with going back to Earth and collecting some treasure to pay off the debt that they owe. And the cool thing about this game is a lot of the treasures found are branded items you can find in real life, like a 7-Up bottle cap or a Duracell battery. It helped give the game a lot more personality when compared to the first game, and for me personally, it also helped a lot with the immersion. That's not to say that the first game lacked any real personality, because it definitely did have said personality and was quite the immersive experience. But this game definitely feels like it has a lot more personality, and is a lot more confident with showing what a Pikmin game can be, with all of the charming cutscenes and side content like the Piklopedia.
It shines through in the gameplay also. When compared to the original, there's absolutely no contest on which one plays and controls better.
The controls feel a lot more fluid. The first game controlled really well too, but there's a lot less weight to everything this time round, and everything feels just a lot faster and more snappy. My complaints with the Pikmin AI from the last review were answered too. Now the AI is much more responsive and the Pikmin do what they have to do, rather than going off to explore fuck knows where. And because of these admittedly large quality of life changes, the core gameplay is made that much better, and in turn, this makes the overall experience better. Exploring the overworld, collecting items, solving puzzles, and fighting off enemies feels that much more rewarding because of the sharpness and speed of the gameplay. Speaking of exploration, there's a whole new way to explore the world in this game. And it sure is something. For those who don't know, Pikmin 2 introduced underground sections that can be accessed by going down these holes in the overworld.
And they fucking suck!
I don't know whose bright idea it was to put these in the game, but whoever it was needs to be sent to the Konami concentration camps so they can make pachinko machines till the end of time. In all fairness, these sections aren't all bad, they can be pretty fun and can help break up the gameplay, and they add something new to the Pikmin formula. But fundamentally, they go against the standard Pikmin formula, and not in a charming or endearing way either. Time doesn't pass in these underground sections, which is definitely a good thing, because they go on forever. But with the absence of the pressure of time on your hands, you're just trudging through these generic, randomly generated labyrinths for half an hour at a time, doing the bare minimum of what constitutes its Pikmin gameplay. The only real challenge to come from these sections is finding the great bosses that the caves throw at you. But a bunch of good boss battles doesn't make a game good. Especially not in Pikmin 2's case, because in these underground cave-like sections, the game's idea of a challenge is either bombarding you with enemies or electrocuting you and your Pikmin, which is a one-hit kill hazard for your Pikmin, by the way. There's no planning or strategy involved since you don't need to solve any kind of puzzles. The closest thing you have is sending off your red Pikmin to get rid of a fire hazard so you can move on. Fucking riveting. And again, since time doesn't pass underground, you've got no pressure on that front, making time management non-existent. It's not like the first Pikmin game was akin to a Zelda game when it came to the puzzles, but damn, at least I felt like I was using more than 2 brain cells.
I wanted to like these sections, I really did, but they just suck so bad. And they go on for fucking ever. By the time you reach the final floor, because of all the Pikmin you've lost, you can't even fight the boss at the end. Like, what the fuck are 20 blue Pikmin gonna do against a giant fucking bird?
I'm not usually one to complain about the length of games. I'm a fan of JRPGs for Christ's sake. But Jesus Christ on a fucking bicycle. These games just go on and on and on. The game can be beaten in about 10 to 12 hours, so there's obviously a lot more game here compared to its predecessor, which could be beaten in about 8 hours your first time round if you're really stretching it out. But that doesn't mean shit when 8 of those 10 hours is spent in underground sections that go against the core gameplay style that was established in the first game, or in layman's terms, what makes Pikmin, Pikmin. Holy fucking shit, how do you fuck up the formula that bad? It's like they decided, hey, we've got this perfectly good formula that we established in the first game, and somehow made a million times better in this game. Now let's only use it for about 20% of the game and focus on this flawed new gameplay style for the rest of the game.
Okay, maybe I'm being a little harsh here. It's not all bad. The caves are home to 3 new Pikmin types, and they're all pretty awesome.
You have purple Pikmin, which are super strong and count as 10 Pikmin when carrying items, white Pikmin, which are fast, can dig up hidden treasure and are poisonous, and finally Bulbmin, which are immune to all hazards, but unfortunately can't be taken back to the overworld. I love all 3 of these new Pikmin types. If I had to choose a favourite gun to the head, it'd probably be the Bulbmin. They're super cute and unique. I even made some pixel art of a Bulbmin. I haven't really spoken much about the overworld parts of the game, but it has to be said that they're basically flawless, and again they're made infinitely more enjoyable thanks to the mini overhaul that the gameplay went under. This game feels like the one when the Pikmin franchise started to gain its footing and started to forge an identity of its own. But at the same time, it feels like it's having an identity crisis. The game feels like it's taking 1 step forward and 2 steps to the left. By that I mean the game took some necessary steps forward and built on the foundation that the original set, but instead of going backwards, like some games would, it just decided to take some weird detour. I know I've spent the majority of the review ranting about the underground sections, and don't get me wrong, they are dog shit sometimes, but they're really not that bad. I'm sure if I was to play the game in hour-long increments, the cave sections wouldn't piss me off as much as they did. But when you've got gameplay that's as addictive as the gameplay found in these games, usually an hour of playing won't cut it. But it's hard to enjoy hours of a game that goes against itself and what it sets out to do so hard. Do you know why people didn't like The Wrath of Cortex? Because the game was filled with vehicle levels, and the platforming sections that Crash was known for were very few and far between. The cave sections are the vehicle levels of this game. There's a real overabundance, and it led to me having to force myself to finish whatever cave I was in, because of how drawn out and long they get, especially near the end.
But even though I was forcing myself to finish stages near the end, I still enjoyed my time with this game. Despite painting it out as a flawed game, I'd hesitate to call it bad or even mediocre. It's honestly a good game, at least I think so, but it has obvious flaws once you scratch under the surface a little.
But even with said flaws, there's plenty to love here. The soundtrack is pretty fun and varied sonically, especially in the caves. I'd go as far as to say this is some of Kazumi Totaka's best work. You have the sprays that add an extra dimension to the gameplay and can make the game easier for newer players. The deadline system of the last game was scrapped entirely, and while it makes the day system kinda pointless, I think it helps accentuate the calm theme Pikmin games tend to go for. Replacing Olimar's journal entries from the last game are emails, which I think are miles better and add to the charm and humorous tone. And since we're on the subject of humour, the game made me chuckle a few times, and I feel like it has a lot more personality than the original.
But would I recommend this game to anyone? If you're a Pikmin fan and haven't played this one, I think it's worth giving a shot, because there's a lot to love with this game. But if you're a newcomer looking for a starting point, I'd say go with the original. And don't let my complaints deter you, this is considered the best Pikmin game by some, and I feel like it's a game you have to experience firsthand to properly understand. So XYZCruncher, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to leave a like, subscribe, share, do all of that good shit, because it really helps me get that one step closer to being able to do this as a job, which is ultimately what I want. And yeah, it just really helps the channel grow, and I really want more people to see these videos because I work really hard on them. I've got a really big, well, I say big, it's a bit of a different review, possibly coming out either next week or the week after. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that. I've actually started a second channel. I don't know if I've actually uploaded anything on it yet, but I probably have. So yeah, feel free to check that out. It's a kind of like an extra channel. There's a proper like other channel that I'm gonna make dedicated to music, you know, music reviews that I'm probably gonna start up at some point. I've already got a couple videos made, but they're just kind of like, I'm just kind of waiting on having a bit of a backlog to upload. So yeah, I'll probably link that at some point too, so keep your eyes peeled for that. But for now, you can check out my extras channel. It's just going to be vloggy content and just meme shit and whatever the fuck I feel like making. There's not really a name to that channel, so feel free to check that out. And yeah, keep your eyes peeled for more reviews coming soon. But yeah, anyway guys, I've been XYZCruncher. Stay cool, stay safe, stay crunchy, and I'm out. Peace.